Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another episode of Fundamentals of UX Design series. In this series, we are trying to understand the design fundamentals and their application in UX or product design. In my last video, I talked about the different principles of design, the 7 principles of design, and we looked into one of the principles, which is contrast, in details with example. So if you're coming to this video directly, I would highly recommend you to go check it out as well. That's the part 1. This is the part 2. In today's video, we're going to look at the second principle of design, which is balance. So without further ado, let's get started. So just to recap, there are 7 principles of design. They are balance, contrast, emphasis, scale and proportion, repetition, hierarchy, and unity. And in the last video, we talked about contrast and the details of the principle contrast. In today's video, we're going to look at the second principle, which is balance. So let's first understand what's the definition of balance, and then we'll see how it's used. So the principle of balance states that objects in design carry a weight, just like the physical world, but it's called visual weight, and that the visual weight of the design needs to have a balance. And this balance can be implied by size, shape, or even contrast. So this is the definition, but let's look at the definition into simple terms. So it states 2 things. First of all, it says that there's something known as a visual weight, and that this visual weight needs to have a balance in your design. What exactly is a visual weight? So a visual weight is not something that you can measure concretely with a metric, or there's a measurement tool that can measure it. You assign a visual weight to the elements of your design by observing if certain objects grab more attention than others or not. So for example, if there is some element in your design that is grabbing more attention, it will have a higher visual weight than something in your design that is more passive. Okay, let's look into this by some example. So here's an onboarding screen of Medium, and if you see this design, if you see this text on the top, this bold text on the top, it's grabbing more attention than the text in the bottom. So it's definitely higher in visual weight than the text below. Similarly, if you see this pill, the selected green pill is grabbing more attention than the unselected pill. And the button here again is grabbing more attention. So whatever in the design grabbing more attention have a higher visual weight than the ones that is grabbing less attention. Okay. So it totally depends on the discretion of designer to assign a visual weight. And that's why it's quite tricky to master balance. It takes years of experience to understand the overall symmetry and balance of the design to assign a visual weight to things. Okay, so it comes with overall experience. So the next question comes in, why balancing is important and why should we even care about balancing? So balancing actually gives your design its form and stability. And it makes your design really easy to comprehend and scan, especially if your design, let's say, is heavy on information, then it makes your design easy to digest and skim through. So balancing is really important to give stability in your design. It's like putting 2 objects on a seesaw, and if one side is too heavy, the viewer's eye will directly go towards the heavier part. But if it's balanced in both sides, then the seesaw will be in equilibrium. Similarly with your design as well, if your design is visually heavy from one side on one part of your design, then unintentionally you are directing users' eye or users' focus towards that part of your design. That may or may not be your intention, but unintentionally you are drawing the eye of the user towards the visually heavy part of your design. So always make sure that your designs are balanced. So till now we understood what the principle of balance is and why balancing is so important. Now let's understand how balancing is achieved. So balancing is achieved in 2 ways. First is called symmetrical balance, and as the name suggests, what you do is you evenly balance out elements with equal visual weights on either side of your design, right? So this is a symmetrical balance where you're just putting this example that I'm showing here right now. You have 2 elements on left and right, and they're exactly same in the visual weight. But that's not the only way of achieving a perfect balance or a perfect equilibrium. Another way of doing it is through asymmetrical balancing. And what asymmetrical balancing is, that you're trying to balance out the seesaw that you're seeing here with elements of different weights. So on one side you may have a really high visual weight element, whereas you're countering that weight with smaller elements which have lower visual weights than that element, but you're trying to counter that with these group of smaller visual weight elements. So you're again trying to visualize, you're again trying to do the same balancing, but you're doing it asymmetrically here. Now let's see some real world example. I've explained what the principle is, why balancing is important, and how it is achieved. Now let's see some examples of the real world products. So I have 4 app screenshots here of a daily used app. One is Instagram, second one is Gmail, third one is Uber Eats, and the fourth one is Netflix. Now if you see, let's start with the first one. If you see in the Instagram app here, you see all the elements are exactly equal and they are divided throughout the layout from top to bottom, and all of these components are exactly the same. If you see, they have the similar structure. They have an icon image here, they have some text, and then some button, right? So but all of these components that you see that are laid down from top to bottom are exactly same in visual weight, and that's why it's a symmetrical layout, it's a symmetrical balanced layout. Let's see in the second example again with Gmail as well. You see, they have, all of them have like a really similar weight because the components are exactly the same. The text and the images could be different, but the component is designed is exactly the same way, right? So it's again from top to bottom. If you see, if you try to draw an imaginary line, let's say a green line here, you'll still be able to see that everything from this line above or below is exactly the same. So the weight is evenly distributed here. Now let's see in the next example. The next example here is Uber Eats, right? Again in Uber Eats, if you see, the layout is exactly the same. If I try to draw an imaginary line in between, this, all of them are like exactly the same component, same visual weight. They may have different images and all, but they're designed in the same fashion and they have exactly the same visual weight. Similarly for Netflix as well, if you see the grid, that's exactly the same component and have exactly same visual weights. So if I try to again divide it into an imaginary line, you'll see top and bottom both have equal visual weight distributed. So these are the examples, like a very simple examples of symmetrical balancing. And if you understand, since they're trying to present a lot of data, especially in case of Gmail, having this sort of a balance, having this sort of a symmetry helps you to consume things in a better fashion. And wherever they want to highlight something even more, let's say they want to highlight one of the email components in a little bit better way, they use bolder text to add a little bit of more contrast to it, right? So they're using multiple principles to achieve the effect. But if you see in consumption, symmetrical balancing helps a lot. Now let's look into our second example, which is asymmetrical balancing. Now this is a screenshot from the Headspace app. Okay, this is their onboarding screen. Pretty nice. I like the app a lot. Now if you see, they have a logo here, they have a really nice bold and bigger text here, they have some text here, and they have a button here and some illustration here. Okay, now if I try to actually I try to hide the illustration below, and if I try to hide this illustration below and now I try to create an imaginary center line, let's say this one, you will see that the entire design is top heavy, right? This entire design is top heavy because this has a very high visual weight. This even have a high visual weight, but then again it's not in the bottom, so it's not balancing out the design. So to balance out this entire design, they have added this really nice illustration below, and this illustration is what is balancing out the overall layout. Otherwise the layout would have been top heavy. So just to make sure that the layout is not top heavy, they've used this really nice illustration, and this is now balancing out the white space in the app screen. So very clever use of illustration to create a really nice asymmetrical balance. Okay, now let's look into some other examples of asymmetrical balance. So the second app that you're seeing here is from Airbnb, and the third one is the Cash app, very typical Cash app. So in the Airbnb app, if you see again, you have like a very big image on top. Image and icons both have a very high visual weight because they attract a lot more than your text. And then in the below you have this bigger bolder text and you have buttons as well. So if you see, if they would not have used all these bigger and bolder text and other things like this colored button, this would have been a really top heavy design. If I just draw imaginary line in between, this would have been a really top heavy element. Users will not scan other things really easily. So to make sure that this is like really evenly designed, it's really easy to scan and it's evenly balanced, they have added bolder text below as well, and then this button, which is this colored button. So now they're trying to balance this out with bolder text and buttons, the visual weight of the image. Similarly here, if you see, if I again try to draw an imaginary line in between, this bolder text and this bolder text draws more attention. So to balance it out, they have added this keypad as well as this big button on the bottom. So it tries to balance out the overall space that is available here, the white space that is available here, so that it becomes like an even sort of a layout. So now they are trying to do this by asymmetrical balancing. They don't have components that look exactly similar, but they are using different weights of component to balance out the overall design, right? So it's a really nice examples of asymmetrical balancing. I would highly encourage you to check out different tabs that you have and see which one is using symmetrical balance and which one is using asymmetrical balance. Now here is a simple quiz for you before we end this video. This is a layout, this is the desktop layout of Pinterest. I want you to comment below if this layout is a symmetrical balance layout or an asymmetrically balanced layout. So you have to figure out that if this layout that Pinterest is using in their desktop screen is symmetrically balanced or asymmetrically balanced. Write down your explanations, everything in the comment section below, and I'll answer this in the next video. It's pretty interesting. So yeah, that's about it. That's about today's knowledge and everything. Hope you like this video. I will be bringing the other principles in upcoming videos. So stay tuned, do subscribe to the channel, and if you like this video, hit like and subscribe. And that's it for today. I'll see you in my next video. Take care. Bye bye.